This is the Horse Radio Network.
It's 2019, and you know what that means. New Year's resolutions. Two special guests will share their tricks and tips on how they stay on track with their goals. A new year also means new rules, and you'll never guess who beat Mclain and Beezie in one year-end contest. Thanks for tuning in.
From Heels Down Magazine, a podcast where horse pros chat about what's happening in the horse world over drinks.
Welcome to Happy Hour. I'm Justine Griffin.
I'm Jessica Payne, and welcome to episode 39 of Heels Down Happy Hour.
How are you, Jess?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Welcome to 2019.
I know. Oh, crazy new year and lots of cool things we've got planned for the show this year, right?
Absolutely. I'm so excited.
What did you do for New Year's?
Oh, since I have a 1-year-old, I spent it not even making it to midnight. So I think it was like 10 o'clock, maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Doug and I stayed at home and it was fun. It was just us. My family came in. We had a big birthday party for Hudson and a bunch of our friends. So it was fun. It was fun. It was like a birthday for Hudson was 1. Our friend Nielsen was 42 and our friend Wendy was 60. Wendy with the fanny pack.
Oh yeah. My best friend.
Absolutely. But they're all born Christmas Eve and I feel like they always get shafted. So we did a big party.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah. So that was my partying it up phase.
Awesome. Yeah. We were pretty low key too. I mean, I made it to midnight, but I just also feel like every time I drink, I'm hungover for 2 days and I just hate that. So yeah. It's not in the cards anymore.
Can't party like I'm 21 anymore.
Nope. So as you guys know, this episode is brought to you by Eagle Gold. And Jess, I know you have the Hunter Pad, but I just ordered one and it's in the mail and I can't wait to hold it.
Yay.
And I was telling my husband, I know this is going to be really hard for you to understand as I try to explain how important this is to me, but I am so excited to get an Eco Gold pad. I'm freaking out. It is like the best Christmas gift ever, even though it's after Christmas. So I'm sure I'll tell you guys all about it on the show next time, but I can't wait.
So excited. Speaking of excited, this drink that we have for you guys, I cannot wait to try. I don't know where you found this, Justine, but wow. So I'm not even sure what it's exactly called. You'll have to tell me, but this has got vanilla, pear, and Prosecco. And I am like, wow. It says it's a wintry haven. I'm like, this sounds amazing. So you do 2 whole vanilla beans split up, 2 pears chopped up, stems and seeds removed, obviously, 3 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons of lemon, and Prosecco.
Yeah, I don't think it has a name, but doesn't it sound really good? I don't know if it's like New Year's or what, but I'm really just into bubbly. I want something bubbly all the time. But
bubbly? Yeah. And then have you ever had a Harry and David pear? My mom gets them for Christmas. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to send you some.
Please.
So they're like the best pears. And my son loves pears and apples. I don't really know why. So we buy a lot of pears nowadays. Aww. So this fits like right in, I feel like. Bubbly and pears. I'm like, this is my whole life right now.
Just steal a pear from Hudson and make yourself a fancy drink.
I'm going to.
No, this sounds delicious. I love vanilla everything, and paired with the pear and like the champagne Prosecco bubbly, delicious.
Mm-hmm. Can't wait. So you have some fun news for us.
I do. Okay. So, of course, I know you saw, because everyone in the world who has a Facebook account and knows a one horse in their lifetime has seen the freaking 52 thoroughbreds who need homes haunting posts that just won't die. Started in 2011 and it came back. I mean, you saw it, right, Jess? Did somebody tag you in a post?
No, I saw someone that was like, I didn't get tagged in it, thankfully, but I didn't understand the 2011 post. I will have to admit, I kind of was a little bit like, I don't know what's happening there. So then when it came back, I was kind of glad, like I got to see everything. So it was great. Well, no, it gets way better. So then I saw this one post on Facebook and they said, okay, if you have an ex-boyfriend or somebody you really hate, text me their number and $1,000 and I'll put that post like with their number on it. And I was like, how awesome would that
Oh
be?
my gosh. That is pretty funny.
Like, that's amazing. So in spirit of it, I never understood the shirt that I had that was like, yes, all the, the heels down happy hour shirt that says, yes, all the 52 thoroughbreds got freed. So
Oh my God. So you have the t-shirt you didn't even know?
No, I didn't really understand what the t-shirt was. I was like, sure, that makes sense. I had no clue what it meant. I'm not going to lie.
Oh my God.
But it looked like a cool shirt. So I said, yeah, why not? So anyways, in spirit of it, I wore it for dinner last night that I was cooking at my house. And Jan Benny, my coach, was in town, and Doug goes, what does that shirt even mean? I've never understood it. And I could finally explain it to him. I was so proud of myself.
That is the best story ever. Oh my gosh, that's
I feel
hilarious.
like that takes over the whole news items.
I know. Well, so I want to plug that, yes, we have our own t-shirts, and one of them is it says, yes, all 52 thoroughbreds found homes. And it's really funny because it's related to this crazy Facebook post that just came back. So
that I was glad for, because now I can wear my shirt and understand it.
So if you want one of your own, you can go to heelsdownmag.com/shop. And we also have a few others that are really great and funny. Maybe
What's
more
your
easier
favorite?
I don't know. I like this one, but I think I also like the warm-up ring expert.
Oh, that's my other one I have. And I do know what that one means because I wear that one more. So I feel like that's like my definition of life. Like, I love it. I'm like warm-up ring expert. Gotta go. Ready. I can win the warm-up every time.
Oh my gosh. I love it. So anyways, you guys can get your own at our website, heelsdownmag.com. So, Jess, I don't know.
So funny news. I have a not as funny one. So in 2019, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around this, because right now it's stating that it's just for show jumping.
Okay.
That the FEI has released these new updated rules for 2019. And right now it's stating for show jumping only. Usually eventing kind of follows with show jumping, but we haven't kind of heard if they're going to or not. I'm not going to lie. I called my mother-in-law and she still didn't know. And she does a lot of FEI stuff. So I'm just going to believe that just because I didn't hear it and she didn't hear it, maybe we're still not completely out of the loop. But definitely for show jumping, which still applies to us, like we do have the FEI show jump courses, that you can't use new, and I feel like everybody's going to interpret this rule a bit differently, but you can't use pinch hinds. Essentially, they're basically going to, in the next couple of years, that you have to just wear hind boots for protective purposes. So in young jumper classes, you can't use any of the Velcro that kind of roll back, or any of the dodo boots, or any of those. So that's kind of where the FEI is pushing all the rules to. So
why? Why did they not want you to wear those boots?
They're feeling that the boots enhance the hind end and help the hind end out. And yes, most of the boots do. So they're saying, okay, no, we want to make sure that they're not enhancing any part of it. So if you use pinch hinds that make the horses, kick out higher, they're basically going to ban it for the FEI. So they're saying, this is not what we're going to do. You can use very simple, plain hinds. Flea skin hinds are fine, but they are going away from, it definitely says in there that you can't use the Velcro that wrap all the way around the backside. Those are 100% are not going to be able to be used. We use a lot of times, the Veritas makes a kind of Velcro that pulls back, and it is a little in a gray area if we're going to be able to use those for FEI for show jumping. And, a lot of our event horses wear them because, they get tired or whatever. And a lot of event horses don't have as nice of hind ends, because with jumping, you don't want them to kick out so high. I mean, that's honestly why we moved one of ours to a show jumper, because he just kicked out so high that when Doug would drop into water or anything else, he basically would almost flip over. So,
oh my gosh.
But he's so careful, right? He just follow through too much. So
right.
That's what those boots, you would never put a boot on that kind of horse. He doesn't need it. But some of the ones that just aren't natural behind, that kind of just helps him out a little bit. So
sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting that they kind of decided to go away from it, which sucks, but it is what it is. I guess we'll have to do with it. And if everybody's having to deal with it, so I guess that's fine.
Are people complaining? Are you hearing any feedback from it, or
So new, and there hasn't been an FEI event yet. So I don't think we'll hear it for a couple months, and it's going to be how a lot of the stewards interpret the rule. All of it, right? You know, like they came out and everybody freaked out when the FEI made you cover up a lot of the patches for sponsors or whatever for dressage.
Right.
And some stewards like didn't care, and other stewards cared some of the time. Like it's kind of weird. It's like what they decide basically.
Right.
We'll just have to stay tuned in.
Interesting. Well, our last news item, I figured Jess, you and I could just talk about it together. So you know how the Chronicle of the Horse, they have like that long-standing behind the stall door segment that they always do with, you know, famous horses of
Van Diver got interviewed. He was one of the top ones.
I saw. So they do at the end of the year, they do a ranking of like what were the top viewed ones, essentially, like the readers' favorites. So they let everybody pick. And I see that Van Diver is on this list. He made the top 10. He's number 6.
He did. He's so stinking cute.
He is. I was gonna say he's very handsome in this.
And those ears. He's got the biggest ears. Poor thing.
But there are a lot of like pretty famous horses on this list from, you know, very famous riders. I mean, like Beezie's horses are on here. Clinta's on here, which is Mclain Ward's horse, obviously. But what I love about it is the number one like reader's pick was Smooshy, which is Kaylee Kuko's rescued dwarf mini. And I think she got that mini from the Peeps Foundation, which is a wonderful organization that rescues mini horses and rehabs them and puts them in homes.
Well, you know, we went to the Peeps Foundation. I took Hudson to like go when we were in Kentucky.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a good friend of ours started the Peeps Foundation, and he's always been so kind and everything. And I hadn't seen him in a while, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you have a son!" And I was like, "Yep, that's where I've been lately." And he's like, "You have to take him over and see all the animals." And they have miniature cows, like all the miniature ponies that they've rescued. And some have come from like terrible situations. And that's what they've done. And they rehome them. And Smooshy is one of them.
Yeah, no. So we wrote a story about them too in Heels Down magazine, not last year, probably the year before. And that was like one of my favorite photo shoots we ever did because they're all so stinking cute, but they had like goats and a llama and all kinds of animals. And it's just a wonderful foundation. But I just love the fact that Smooshy beat out like these Olympic level horses that are beautiful and everyone knows them. They're like household names in the industry, and it's Smooshy who's number one.
I love it. I'm going to have to share in the Facebook group, the Heels Down Happy Hour Lounge. I'll have to share the picture of Hudson when he went to the Peeps Foundation. It's so, so cute.
Oh my gosh, you definitely have to share it.
I will. So
if you want to hear more news and commentary from us at Heels Down Mag, make sure you're subscribed to the Heels Down Brief, which is our weekday email newsletter. We share all kinds of super fun and interesting stories, not just what we publish on our own platforms, but news from all over, and not just horse news, interesting science and health and funny viral stories, all kinds of fun stuff. And we also are featuring really cool, exclusive one-on-one interviews with riders in the brief these days that you'll only get in our newsletter. And we also share our stories that publish on our website, heelsdownmag.com. We share them with you first in the email newsletter. So sign up for the Heels Down Brief at bit.ly/HD brief. So Jess, I have a question for you. Do you ride in tall boots, or do you ride in, this is probably like full on chaps? I feel like no one does that anymore. Or do you ride? I saw
someone the other day in full on chaps actually, and I was like shocked, but I ride in tall boots.
Do you? So you're not a half chap person?
I can't find, unless you can convert me, I can't find ones that like stay up. Like after 2-3 months, like they stretch and they fall down.
Huh. That's interesting. Wow. So I've been riding it. I don't know. Like growing up, I remember when like full on chaps were cool, and I did that. And then I switched to half chaps when they were cool, and I've just never grown out of that phase. But I do know like younger riders at my barn, they all wear their tall boots to ride every day. And I look at them and go, how do you keep them clean for horse shows? You know, I'm sure they have a show pair, but Also, I love my tall boots, but I feel like they're the most uncomfortable things ever to walk around in the barn. So I've always just stuck with paddock boots and half chaps. And I just got a pair of the new Smart Pack half chaps. They're called the Eliza half chaps.
Okay.
And they're awesome. You know, I've always kind of gone for like cheaper half chaps and just wear through them and then get new ones. But these are nice, and they're priced at $89. And Smart Pack has deals, so you could probably get them a little bit cheaper. But they are real leather. It's real soft, contoured leather. The stretch is great. And I always worry about sizing with half chaps. Like same thing with tall boots. It's really hard to find something that customized that like fits you and looks good. And Smart Pack got it right the first time. Like I ordered them and I sized them based on their guide on their website, and they fit me perfectly. And what I like about these specific half chaps is they have a hardcore heavy duty zipper, because it always sucks when your zipper blows out, right, on your boots or your half chaps. And so this pair has a really, really heavy duty zipper, and it's built to last, and it's proven that. And the snaps are good. I've had them for a couple weeks now, and I am not light on them. Like I'm riding several horses in them. They're getting wet from the hose, and they are just standing up to the test of time. And so far, they've not fallen down. So
that's pretty impressive. So I know. Once you've had it for a bit, I really want to hear an update on them.
All right, I might have to send you a pair.
I was going to say you might have to convert me,
because they're awesome. They're super easy. I really like them a lot. I honestly can't tell you a pair of half chaps that I probably like better, and I've bought a lot in my lifetime. So yeah. So if you guys want to check them out, obviously go to Smart Pack's website, and again, they're called the Eliza half chaps. All right, guys. So we have a really special guest on the show today. Her name is Kerrigan Gulk, and she is a dressage rider here in the U.S., and she's been part of the Discover Dressage, USCF, and USDF Emerging Athlete Program since March with her 3 horses. She competed at the North American Youth Championships, where she earned an individual freestyle bronze medal in 2015. And she also competed in 2016 in the European Tour for the U.S. Young Riders. And she's had many successful USCF Dressage National Championships in the FVI age divisions over the years. And I know you also competed overseas as a U25 rider this year. So welcome, Kerrigan. We're so happy to have you.
Hi, it's nice to be on. Happy to do it. Thank you.
So we're really interested in talking to you about what you've learned and kind of what the experience is like for some of these development programs. You know, we hear the USCF and we hear USDF and other, eventing, hunter jumper disciplines all have these programs to really try to elevate young riders. And since you've been working through the Emerging Athlete Program last year, I'd love to know more about your experience, like how you got started and was it really worth it, and how it's paid off for your career so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my dressage career really started with the Dressage for Kids program at a young age. I think I was maybe 12 or 13. And the Dressage for Kids program allowed me to get involved with programs like the Emerging Athlete Program because of London Gray. And it gave me the opportunities to ride with London and other trainers of her level, even though I didn't have maybe the money to travel or this big expensive horse. I was always given opportunities through the program, which the Dressage for Kids program led me to the Emerging Athlete Program and the Robert Dover Horse Mastership Clinic, and then last year when they launched the Emerging Athlete Program. So it really has been kind of a stepping stone through the youth programs that the Federation has generously figured out, as well as the Dressage for Kids. Yeah, it was really just a stepping stone, getting better, training with different people. And then the Emerging Athlete Program obviously is kind of the top of what the youth division offers right now. It's the top athletes, top horse and rider combinations, all coming together for various clinics around the states and training with the top trainers in the country. So I don't think you can get much better than that.
That's
no,
awesome.
Not at all.
Wow. So obviously a lot of people see dressage as a base for all riding, just as an eventer. And obviously dressage plays a component in eventing. but also I grew up riding the hunters, and we still use a lot of dressage components. So, we have listeners who ride all different types of horses and all different types of disciplines. And I was wondering if you can make a good case on why developing good flat work is so important.
Yeah, flat work is definitely important. I'm not super familiar with other aspects of the discipline. I grew up starting with jumpers and kind of a little bit of jumping, but jumping scares me, so that's why I stopped. But I remember the basis is all the same. No matter what level you're at in dressage, you always have to have basic movements. You have to be able to obviously turn the horse and stop the horse and go as fast or as slow as you'd like. And the horse and rider have to be connected on an emotional level, I think, and a physical level. So I think if you carry all of those things over to any discipline you're doing, you're on the right track for success. I think dressage sometimes is always thought of as Grand Prix, but there really is a lot of small little details that really are so simple, but really make the picture amazing. And those are the details that every rider, no matter what discipline it is, has to do.
So something that I think a lot of riders struggle with is understanding feel. Like when you are riding, how do you understand like maintaining a feel of your horse? I know this is a complicated question to ask you to answer, but can you try to describe what that means? Like riding with feel, and how do you achieve and maintain that?
Yeah, for me personally, I think feel has to do with your connection with the horse. If you feel that what you're doing in the saddle is making a positive reaction with the horse or a positive correction, then you have the correct feel. I think when you don't feel like you're getting anywhere, you don't feel like you're improving, or you hit maybe a roadblock, then I think you need to take a step back and think maybe, what am I feeling, or what can I do differently? And to maintain it, that's a very difficult question. But I think I just always think of it as the connection with the horse. If you're feeling in your hands and if you're in your body that the horse is happy, the horse is willing to go forward, the horse physically feels good, then you just should continue that feel you have and try your best not to lose it.
Oh, that's great. So I have a question. So with eventing and everything else, like we kind of have like a end goal of the season with it being like kind of a long format, a short format CCI for us. So what I was wondering is like obviously I do dressage with eventing, but I don't do like proper dressage. Like when you're planning out your like show season, do you guys break it up into spring and fall as well? Do you have kind of like a main one that you're going to? Because obviously you can do a lot more than us with than the long format. So like kind of tell us like what do you do as a weekly schedule, like a monthly, seasonal schedule? Kind of go through what you guys kind of think.
Yeah, well, it kind of depends on where you're based, I think, in the country or the world, I guess, for your show schedule. I know for me personally, I'm based in Wellington in the winters, so that kind of flip-flops our show season as opposed to someone that is in the north all year round. So for me, normally the summers and the early fall, like late summer, early fall, is kind of our break period where the horses really just relax and take a step back from the competitions and recuperate and hopefully gain all their energy back needed for the season. And then the Wellington season starts. I normally arrive to Wellington in October, early October, and then the actual CDI competitions start in January. So from January to the end of March, early April, there are basically shows every weekend if you wanted to. But really, the fall is for me trying to build the horses up physically and mentally to be able to handle the 3-month season. That is really important for their physical health and keeping everything fresh, keeping their mind happy to work, I think is a big part of it, because season is very difficult, very demanding here in Wellington. And then after the Wellington season, I've been fortunate enough to be able to go to Europe a couple of times. So depending on if that happens, the European tour starts in the spring, and normally it's about 2 months. And then the peak show season is pretty much over after that for me, anyways, at this moment in my training and career. And then it's just a cycle over and over again.
It keeps going back.
Yep, just same routine. For like a weekly schedule, my horses work. I'm normally in the saddle 6 days a week. They have 1 day off, completely off, just in turnout, being horses. And 1 day is just going out on the trails and hacking. And then the rest of the days is I vary the work. Some days in the arena, some days working outside the arena. Cavaletti along in Wellington, we have awesome trails along the canals. I like to work outside of the ring, like I said, to keep their brain as kind of stimulated as possible. And as far as when I'm getting ready for a competition, I normally when I plan the competition, I try to pick the peak day I want the horse to be. Like middle of competition, I want him to be at the top of his game. So then I count backwards about a week, I would say, a week to 10 days. Like I look at the calendar and say, okay, I'd like 8 days to prepare to make sure the horse is 100% ready. So then I'll schedule the horse's day off. I'll schedule the horse's walk day. So then the horse builds up slowly to the day of the competition that I need him. And then I don't stress him. I don't overwork him. He's trying to keep the same schedule for him as I can. So it doesn't add any stress. It doesn't add anything out of the ordinary. That's when problems happen.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And Kerrigan, so our last question for you is, do you have any like go-to horse care tricks or any like barn hacks that you just love that you always use?
Well, I actually kind of have a weird one for myself. That in Florida, most of the time it's very hot and sticky. So for the tack in my breeches, they're always kind of sweaty and awfully gross. So you stick to the saddle really well. And for dressage, it's really important that you stick in the saddle because it's not good. So if it's cold, it's very weird, I know, but I always wet the inside of my breeches before I compete, or if I have like a really hard ride ahead of me, so I know that I'm stuck to the saddle.
Oh wow! So like you
consider that
like you use hack, a wet washcloth or something just to like wet the whole inside of your breeches so they're damp, or how wet are they?
Yep. Oh, they're pretty damp.
They're pretty damp.
Yeah. It's very awesome. Strange, I know. And then as far as like horse care, I actually have a horse that's pretty sensitive skin. He's a gray, so everything irritates his skin. So I always just try to keep them as dry and as clean as possible, because in Florida in particular, the humidity and flies and moisture is really bad for their legs. So just keeping their legs as dry as possible is my go-to tip for horse care.
Awesome. Well, Kerrigan, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was so nice to talk with you.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So, Jess, I think this is the first time we're ever going to have Patricia on the show. Patricia is our boss. Essentially, she's the CEO of Heels Down Media. She makes this show possible, and she's wonderful. And she is launching a new super cool entrepreneur program for business owners in the horse world. And I'm going to let her tell us a little bit more about it. So, Patricia, why don't you tell me about this new program you're hosting called The Circle? I saw it on your website.
Yeah, it's super cool. So it's a very exclusive program for entrepreneurs, or whether they're riders or it's people that have small businesses or big businesses, any size of business. And what it is, it's a circle of entrepreneurs. 8 entrepreneurs in non-competing businesses are going to become part of this group, and I'll facilitate. And it's a very structured, results-driven program. People meet once a month. The goal is really to help each other progress. So it's people that are serious about reaching their goals. And sometimes you're an entrepreneur, you're on your own. You don't have a lot of other people that are your peers to bounce ideas of. So this is really meant so that you have that accountability, you have that progress, and people really challenge you to become better. It's something that I've implemented in other spheres of my life, and it's very, very valuable. And it's not like a social meeting where you go and you just talk about your business and it's all fluff. Like, it's really hardcore. You go deep and you learn and you get challenged and you make awesome changes. And it's really almost like in the horse world, like your coach, like giving you a clinic or like going deep. And you go home and you go, oh my gosh, like I learned so much. I had all these epiphanies.
So it definitely sounds like a boot camp for entrepreneurs, people who are in the horse world and have their own business and really want to collaborate with other like-minded people to really see results and hold themselves accountable and really like build up their business, right?
Yes. And everything, all discussions are confidential. I wouldn't say a boot camp. It's a little bit
more
less
fun than that. Yeah.
More fun than that. But I think just getting 8 people around a table that can help you and can pick you up when you're down and can say, hey, I've tried that and it doesn't work. So, can really avoid making big money mistakes, especially if it's a new market or if it's a new product that you're trying to put in the market sometimes, or you're changing from a different structure. You don't know a little bit where you're going, or you think this is going to work, but you're not sure. It just like solidifies your plan, and it's really great. And you have almost like a brotherhood of people that you can count on, that you can call and compare notes, and it creates these bonds. It's really a great program, and I'm bringing it to the equestrian market. And so far the response has been great. So it's called The Circle. It's 1 meeting per month. You have to commit to that. It's all done by Skype or remotely, so we don't have to be physically in the same location, which is great for this industry because everyone travels all the time. The details can be found. We'll put the link in the podcast, right? But
sure.
It's heelsdownmedia.com. Go on the menu and look for The Circle and apply to get in The Circle.
Sounds awesome.
I'm so excited to welcome our next guest, Devin Ryan, who grew up with Doug actually in New Jersey, and I became friends with him as well through Doug, obviously. But he is a Grand Prix show jumper who was part of our 2018 WEG gold medal team. Congrats, by the way. And he has a beautiful farm in Long Valley, New Jersey. And a fun fact about Devin is he actually started eventing first before he got the bug to show jumps. So
wow.
Welcome, Devin.
Hello. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Good.
So question, describe what it was like when you realized that you guys had like won the gold medal team for WEG and what it was like for your team experience.
Good question. Well, in the moment, it didn't really hit me. It was more after the WEG that it really set in. I was like, wow, it's, became part of history. It's very, as I was told, it's sort of 1% of the country gets to do it each year. Those 4 riders represent 1% of the U.S. show jumping team. And so that's really when I think it really like sort of set in there. It only happens every 4 years, these major championships like the WEGs and Olympics. And so didn't really set in until WEGs was over. When you're there in the moment, so much is going on, so much is going through your head. And like I thought maybe the best performance that I had all season there. And so those type of things as a competitor, you're always wanting to do better than your last time you won the ring. So I sort of had that going through my head, but to be part of that and put in a good solid performance for the team, it was pretty exciting.
I mean, you were 100% part of that team. So it was pretty impressive to go watch, and we were all cheering for you. And speaking of cheering, I thought it was the cutest thing. We were there all cheering for you. And so was your family, your dad, and who else in your family came again?
My brother and sister-in-law, my brother's wife.
That's awesome because it was so cute. Like your dad was the cutest thing, just cheering. And what was it like that your family actually, we were so lucky that it was in Tryon and in the States, but what was it like that they actually could be part of that experience with you?
I guess in the sport in general, we travel so much. So we're all over the place, especially at the upper levels, traveling the A circuit. So it's not like we're just in our backyard all the time. Like growing up doing other sports, you go to the local games, and my parents were always active and came and watched me play football and lacrosse and basketball and did wrestling. And me and my brothers and sisters were very into swimming. So my mom was often driving us to swim practice and all those things. And so it's very, especially my brother and sisters, now they have their families. I have my nieces and nephews. There's 5 of them. And so they just don't get to travel so much. So when we have a local show in Princeton, occasionally they get to come and watch. And just my dad's also, now that where I've gotten this level and showing, my dad's a little bit older, so it's hard for him to travel. So it was actually huge that my whole family, they really, they took off time from work, found babysitters, did all this and made a big move. So we are very close as a family and we spend all our holidays and everything together. So it was very big and exciting that they were all actually there for, this, like I said, it doesn't come that 1% to be part of that every 4 years doesn't really come across too often. As I say, your stars have to all line up. And so for that all to come and happen and then for them to all be there on top of it was pretty special.
Oh, that's so sweet. To switch gears and ask you a more serious kind of training question. Since it's 2019, we get a lot of listeners who are really interested in like setting their goals and how they're going to train and show this year. So I would love to hear, Devin, like, how do you set your own goals for the year or even bigger than that and work backward to achieve those?
Right. I mean, I always like setting goals, it's one thing. It's like usually under every rider, there's many horses. It's not one horse and many riders. So I'm always planning my goals around all my horses. I have a lot of young horses. I have a few older, more experienced horses now. So it always, I have my own personal goals as a rider and also being an instructor. I also have my students' goals. So it's trying to balance it all. But, in the end, as a rider and competing in the sport and spending time in the show ring, obviously my biggest goals for myself right now are my personal goals are me and my riding at the top of the sport. Yes, I love developing my horses and I have a huge passion for that. But I do all that in order to spend time in the ring. So, setting my goals going forward each year, I really sit down and look at each horse and their needs. Like, for instance, Eddie Blue has been, quite a special horse in my career and really put me on the map over the past year and a half. And, for instance, for him, this is, going to be 2019. I plan on it being sort of a lighter year for him because he's such a special horse and he's proven that he's a real championship horse and producing a lot of clean rounds, the biggest sport of the sport that in 2018, we had a goal of trying, one day at a time, picking certain shows, producing clear rounds, and then going forward, because it's not a championship year this year for him. And that would be really his goals would be try to gearing him, say, towards the next championship Olympics, is taking it a little easy this year. So even though I have such a great horse, I don't want to use him up. I don't want to waste him. He's no different than a person. You can't just go every day. You have to really pick and choose. And then, leaning towards young horses, I always, have a season, usually gear them up towards the young horse finals, and then let them wind down at the end of the year and give them a nice break.
That's awesome. That's interesting. I've never heard a top rider say that they're going to ease off their main horse or like their top horse. So I think that's really interesting to hear how you plan that way.
I think it's like a lot of sports. Hear trainers talk about tapers, even with, lifting and running, and it doesn't matter what it is. And I grew up doing all different sports, and I always really believed in that yes, you can't just sit on the sidelines and jump into the heat of it and think you're going to be on the tip of your game. You sort of have to be in it and doing it a little bit, but you have to have your downtime.
Sure.
You have to have your training time for fitness. And then you also have to have your on the field time in the ring time. So, with the horses, I always try when I'm looking at it, I expect them coming home from a show and having a good week to 2 weeks of almost nothing, like really, really light. It's still moving. Horses tend to not lose their fitness for at least 30 days. But if a horse that's moving and staying active at the walk and stuff, really doesn't lose much fitness in a month. So I always think that they need their downtime, but then they also need time to, say, work on their cardio. And then they need also a little bit of time, I believe, before each show to also just take a breather, relax, and everything, and freshen up a little bit. Because there's nothing, the best thing, I think, for any horse or athlete to stay fresh is rest. Taking Advil and using Butte and things like that.
No, absolutely. We all feel that. Absolutely.
That's mentally exactly.
Yeah,
that's mentally not going to fix you. It's just like people need sometimes a little break, a little getaway, a little vacation. I think horse same thing from the show ring, the traveling on the road. So I found that's a huge part of my discipline. Like leading last year, going into Florida, Eddie Blue did not jump a jump for 2.5 months. He didn't even step over Cavaletti on the ground.
Really?
Wow.
As a big athlete. So I really rested him, knowing this could be a huge year for him. going into 2018. So at the end in the fall, I really rested him after indoors. I finished up in Kentucky. He didn't jump a jump until the middle of January in Ocala. I didn't even jump school him at home. I said, you know what? His schooling jumps are going to be in the show ring, his warm-up jump. Like
Wow.
I really, really saved them and said I wanted him to peak towards World Cup finals. That was my goal. So then I slowly built him up. And as he saw, as we got closer, he just started to really come into form. And then obviously this year he was great at World Cup finals, being the only horse to jump clean all the way through. And then he went on to have a great summer. So I think part of that is huge, that you have to have that these horses, especially at the top of the sport, they need that downtime, and they just can't go. They only have so many of those big jumps, so many big efforts. Because eventually too, like people, you know, sometimes even though it's maybe that's their passion, what they do, they can also get a little burnout doing it.
Well, and you're so good at developing like the young horses. Like you've done numerous amounts of young horses. Like, I mean, we all know that like everybody that knows Devin, like he's got a great eye for the young horses too. Like, what's your favorite part of developing them though? Like you're so good at like the thinking about what's good for them, but what's your favorite part of bringing them up?
My favorite part is like, to me, is there's just like there's no pressure. You go out there and I always say, like, I try to treat every one of them. I try to treat them all the same, even though they're different individually and mentally. Like when I train them and stuff, I treat them the same. I don't favor one or the other. I say, I don't care if one has more talent or less talent, because sometimes the one with less talent might have more heart and they might fight for you in the end a little bit more or something along those lines. So I have a mentality, like, that's what I love about it. I just train each one. I don't set high expectations on them. And when they're not, you know, doing, like, you go out and say you purchase a young horse, like, wow, I think this is going to be a really good one. And then you bring them home and a couple months later, they're just not the same as when you tried. And you're like, oh, just like I think kids probably. I mean, I don't have kids personally, but growing up and watching them, I would think it would be no different. Sort of like good parenting. Like I feel like every one of those is like a kid of mine. My goal is to give them good education, give them confidence. Why I want them to like their job and I want them to hate their job. So you have to also know when to back off a little bit when you're, you know, sometimes we have, you know, as riders, we put this high expectation and we think they're going to get it and they're going to get it. So they're not getting it. So we push them harder and push them harder. Sometimes they just need time. So you just have to let time, you know, do its thing and be patient. That's a big, and I think that all sums it up, is just being patient with them and believe in them. I think every one of them, there's so many horses that have come through the barn that some people think are normal horses or that, and I've gotten way more out of them, just being patient with them, just giving them time. And when every horse is going to have their weakness, and it's trying to find those weaknesses and work on each one of them, even with the young ones. Certain gymnastics, you have to change it per horse. You can't just say, oh, some people ask me, what's your favorite gymnastic? I said, my favorite one is what the horse needs, really, at the end of the day. Yeah. You know, It's in every horse is, you know, is different. I mean, I think that's one of the cool things is every one we get on, it's a challenge. They challenge you in different ways, or they teach you something, honestly. Like I find every time I ride a young horse, everyone I think teaches me something over time. Some are definitely way easier than others, but so many of them teach you different things, and just reading them and listening to the horses a little bit.
Well, Devin, you make me feel better as an amateur trying to bring along a young green horse. Like, holy moly, okay, I can do this. So we wrote a story about you in our December issue of Heels Down magazine, and when I read that, when I was editing it, I heard this story. I read this story that you told Sally, a writer and editor at the magazine. So when you first were going to go meet with George Morris to work with him, I guess you slept inside a tent, and not just for like one day, but for like weeks, right? Outside of a firehouse at Lake Placid.
Right. It was pretty close to the story there. Yeah, no, I went and took a few lessons with George, and then we was looking for a working student job for myself for the summer. And my mother had mentioned about maybe me doing a working student job to George with Nona Garson.
And how old were you at that time?
I was 16.
Oh, wow.
And so at the time we have a piece of property here in New Jersey, and I was able to get my farmer's license. So I was 16. So I got my license earlier before all my friends and everything in high school. And I was allowed to drive a pickup truck that had farmer plates on it. I used to tow my 2-horse trailer around with it. And George said, yeah, well, maybe we could use Devin here at Hunterdon. He's like, meet us in Lake Placid and start as a working student job there. And at that point, I'd never even been to an A-rated show, let alone just a jumper show only. I like, as Jess was saying, like I did pony club and eventing. I went to events and I did pony club and I competed and I never went to a jumper show in my life. So my parents drove up with me, followed behind me. And when I was 16 and brought me up, we went up to Lake Placid with my horse and parked the trailer, unload the horse, met Chris Kapler for his first time up there.
Wow.
And when I was meeting everybody else at home in the George's place, they went off to the local firehouse and found that was sort of the closest campgrounds to the showgrounds. And they asked, if we could pitch a tent there for the week. And actually my mommy came back and sort of laughed. She's like, oh, the fire, the gentleman there at the fire department said that they said you can pitch your tent underneath the pavilion because they were afraid if I didn't pitch my tent on the pavilion, the rainstorms and thunderstorms can be so crazy up there in the mountains in the summer. They said that my tent wouldn't survive.
Oh my gosh.
And so my mom was always my dad spent a lot of time in Vietnam. And he spent a lot of time out in the woods. And my mom was a big avid camper, went, backpacking across the country and everything, and was did a lot of skiing and out of bounds skiing, things like that. Everybody in my family was used to living out of a tent and doing things like that. So we're like, yeah, whatever, who cares? A thunderstorm's a thunderstorm. So I pitched my tent there for 2 weeks, and that was it. Chris Kapler didn't have a clue that I was staying in a tent.
Oh my god!
There, I don't think anybody did. Nobody really asked me. I don't think I was a new kid on the block.
They didn't care where you stayed. They're like, you must be covered.
They think I was like everybody else, just staying at the hotel up in town or something, right? The motel hotel and doing the thing. And I used to my mother went to the horse show office and asked them if there was any showers on the showgrounds. And actually, on the Lake Placid showgrounds near the vet office, there's this sort of one of those sort of locker room type showers. It's a row of stalls. And it was just filled with stuff, and I had to go into the shower stalls, and I had to clear out a bunch of folding chairs from one of the shower stalls so I could use it. And the water wasn't turned on. I had to go and find the water shed myself in the middle of the night and figure out how to turn on the water. And then I found out how to turn on the hot water heater, and I swear that water ran for like an hour, like brown and rusty for hours. But eventually it did work, and it wasn't so bad. I had my tent, and I had a hot shower every night, and I'm still here to tell the story. So
you were good to go.
And you ended up getting a job for George Morris, right? Like it worked out in the end?
Yeah. So I spent 2 years as a working student there, where I just worked on my training. I worked every single day except for Mondays. And I would drive there because Hunterdon was only a half hour from my place in New Jersey. So I'd drive there every single day. For 2 years I did it. And when they went to Florida, Chris Kapler at the time had a customer, and they had shell core breeding at the lower barn. So in the winters, when I was done with school, because I was still in school, when on the weekends, I would go just on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, I'd go and I worked at the lower barn, shell core breeding, just helping out and cleaning things and being a gopher, so to speak. Yeah, so I did that for 2 years, and then they put me on the payroll.
Wow.
There, and I worked there for 2 more years until I headed off to Europe.
So Devin, that's amazing. And it sounds like you have super supportive parents, but it's not like you came from this super wealthy family. Like you really had to earn it yourself, which I think is pretty unique in this sport. And I think a lot of people can find your story relatable and inspirational. And can you tell me about that? Because I feel like
by no means. Yeah, I think everybody works hard in their own ways, right? So my parents by no means were poor, but I was one of 4 kids, and they did the best we could. And one of my first vehicles was an old van from my dad's construction company. It was rusty, and I sanded it and painted it myself if I wanted a vehicle and have it nice. But yeah, I was able to have a vehicle, and my first horse, wasn't the most expensive horse. I think honestly we paid $18,000 for it. And that was the first real horse. We had a couple horses before that were free leases, and horses we paid $50 for, and they came with their instructions and medications and stuff like that. So that was a gradual thing. It was pretty hard to convince my father to spend any sort of money on an animal like that. He just didn't understand. I didn't come from a horse family at all. It was totally something new. So to get my father to the point where my mother convinced my father to spend 18 grand on a horse was huge. That was a big, big investment. You know, it was something they never did for anybody. So I was very grateful that they did that. And since then, they never dropped a penny on a horse. You know, that was the last they ever spent on a horse. And I think that was when I was like, it was around 15, 16 when they did that. And ever since then, they never dropped another penny. So like I said, they were always there to support. They paid my horse show entries and things like that. But like I said, I had to work for my lessons. And often in the summer and things like that, my parents, I had to work for my father. So, and I didn't get paid for doing that. So I think that was a way that they sort of repaid us as we worked hard for them and did things that, yeah, maybe we didn't get a paycheck every week, like working down at the local store or restaurant or ice cream shop in the summer, like some kids do. But they paid me in a different way by, purchasing a horse for me and paying for horse show entries.
So real quick before, we kind of close it up, what would you say would be like an inspirational quote for, starting the new year and everything else for kids that are starting to make it, like trying to make it, trying to get up there? What would you tell 15-year-old, 16-year-old Devin? Put you on the spot.
I've been asked that one numerous times, and it's always hard to just give, I think, the perfect answer. Like, because, the easy answer would be you got to work hard. But there's a lot of kids out there can work hard. They're hard workers, but don't a lot of people, when I was like going down the road there, didn't ever think I was going to make it. A lot of people I worked for didn't maybe think I was going to work. And maybe I wasn't the most talented kid out there, but I wanted it so bad. So I would just say, if you want something, don't let anybody tell you you're not good enough or you can't do it, because I had to believe in myself. And I think that's what my parents really taught me, is to never give up and, keep on working hard at it. And if you really want something, that you will get there, but you can't give up. I mean, you have to persevere and push. I mean, I used to, like we said, I used to sleep out of my van and sleep in tents. I do different things just so I could afford to get the mileage and the knowledge that I needed.
That's awesome.
So we're not going to let you go just yet, because I've convinced Justine that you should stay on we have this game called Rose and Thorn, and Rose is the best part of like your last couple weeks, and Thorn is your worst kind of what's happened. So we'll give you a couple minutes to think about it, but we want you to stay on and play if that's okay with you.
Alrighty.
All right, perfect. So Justine, are you ready? Because
is this supposed to be sort of funny, or is it?
Oh, it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah,
it's totally
sort
funny.
of ridiculous. Yeah.
Like Justine's kind of a hipster, so it kind of goes a little bit of everywhere with her.
All right. So sure, I'll use a hipster example for you, Jess. So my rose is that I am leaving next week to go to Park City. I'm going skiing, which is fun. I'm from Florida, so it's nice to like get out of the beautiful winters that we have in Florida, but see some snow. But it's also the Sundance Film Festival, which I've been to in the past, and I love it. And it's such a fun time to be in this little tiny mountain town. So, because there'll be like cool directors and actors, and you get to see interesting movies, and people dress like super bizarre. Like there's an Instagram account that just tracks like the bizarre outfits that people wear to the Sundance Film Festival. I'll have to share them with you, Jess, because they are like out there bizarro world.
Oh my God.
It's my favorite part of going is like people watching. So,
that's amazing.
So that is my rose. And I guess my thorn. Ooh. Maybe my thorn is that we have some sad news that Sally Spickard, our host on the show, who's normally with us, who is the person who interviewed you, Devin. She has got some new exciting career things going on. So she's leaving the magazine and leaving the show. So I know we had to, we wanted to share this with our listeners, right, Jess? And that we're really going to miss Sally.
I know you stole my thorn. I was going to tell everybody. I should have gone first.
It's our shared thorn. Okay. You could just do a rose.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So my rose would be, so since Hudson's been born, I kind of gave my young horse over to Doug for a while, and my preliminary horse has like become the size of a house. He's so fat. So I haven't gone cross country schooling or like even thought about going to a show, but I went cross country schooling today and it was so much fun. So I stole my young one back from Doug. I thought, you know what, I'm taking him back. I'm going to keep him for a bit. So, I mean, he's still for sale sort of, but I was like, you know what, till he sells, I'm stealing him back. So I got to go cross country schooling and it was a lot of fun and I didn't fall off. So that should be my rose right there. I didn't even know where my cross country vest was. I haven't gone cross country schooling in almost 2 years.
Wow. That's crazy.
So I thought that was a really good rose is that I made it. So survived. So Devin, have you thought and had enough time?
Oh man. Okay. Well, I mean, my rose right now is always this time of year. I mean, I love the holidays. It was a big, always family thing. So I think it was huge that I always bring it into my horses. I always take this time of year to spend time at home around the family, catch up because I spend so much time on the road. And so that's really that's been my big rose right now, is just being able to spend the holidays season around home and spend time with the family and enjoy life a little bit, especially at my farm here. I just love that part this time of the year. Even with the weather and stuff, I wish there was a great indoor season up here. I would stay here all year.
It's beautiful that time of year up there. I do think it's so beautiful up there.
Yeah. I guess my thorn would be leaving it.
Yeah, right. Thorn, leaving the whole place, having to go down to Florida.
I love what I do and I love the horses. It's just very fortunate I got to do this for a living and have such a passion for it. I think we're all very grateful to be able to spend time with these animals, but leave my family and my close friends up here and to go down south. It's always hard. Every year I'm building up, actually. I leave this Saturday on the 12th and I head down to Florida for the season. It's always oh man, I don't want to go. I don't want to do that drive going down there. I want to stay here. And
it is a long one too.
That is a long one, yeah.
You can always stop off in Aiken and come visit us, and you can come play with Hudson, Doug, and I. So
right,
door's always open. So thank you so much for coming on, though.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's great. Thank you.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, very welcome.
So now it's mailbag time, one of my favorite times. This time it's from our Facebook group, Heels Down Happy Hour Lounge. If you guys don't follow us or join, please join us and write in about different stories. We love kind of answering questions and talking to you guys on there. It's a lot of fun. But this week, we had a lady that asked and said, which I thought was kind of an interesting question. What do you do when you want to sell one of your horses, but you don't want to tell your whole crew of friends everything that you're selling it? Everyone, her concern is that everyone posts on social media about how they sell it, in the sale groups.
Right.
And every time you post in there, you get that notification that X person posted in there. So she's afraid all of her friends are then going to see it and click on it. And she's asking basically, should she create another profile? But how would she kind of sell her horse on the down low? What do you have advice for?
I think this is interesting because generally when you think of you want to sell a horse, you want the most people to see your ad, right?
Usually... that's what I would kind of think. So I'm interested to think how you would answer it, because for me, when I'm selling a horse, I want to tell everybody because I've decided I wanted to sell it. So why wouldn't I want all my friends to know?
Right. And all your friends, especially horse friends who have connections, you want them to see that. But I can see her point. What if it could be an emotional decision sometimes to sell a horse, especially if she's an amateur and this isn't a business, you know what I mean? It could be very emotional. What if she put a ton of money into this horse and it has some sort of mystery lameness and she's just heartbroken that it just needs to go now because it's just not going to work out.
And she doesn't want questions asked.
Yeah. Or maybe it's money problems, and that's very personal, and you just don't want to publicly air or feel ashamed that, hey, I don't, you know what I mean? Everyone's going to go, all your friends are going to be like, oh my God, what's wrong? And you know what I mean? Being bombarded with those messages.
I never thought about any of that because for me, it's my profession. So
right.
If I sell a horse, it's okay, yeah, I'm selling a horse, but I never thought on the personal level that's pretty interesting.
And it could be, if someone's selling their horse, especially if it's not their business, it's already a sad decision. Generally, it's already emotional, and so then do you really want people bothering you all the time, or or thinking like you gave up or you're not good enough for that horse, or you know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff runs
So
through
what's your
head.
advice? Because coming from like, I know how I kind of get the word out in the best way possible, but what would you do in that situation if you kind of didn't want your friends to know?
That's a great question. I'd probably list it for sale on websites outside of Facebook. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, so it's anonymous. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go to like equine.com or all of those ad sites that were what we relied on before social media existed, or maybe ask a trainer or send your horse to a sale barn, like on consignment, and just sell it that way. Cause then it's not even in your barn. No one will, you know what I mean? You're removed from that situation. If you can afford to do it that way. That would be my suggestion.
Well, and a lot of the consignment barns, they move them quite fast,
Exactly.
That's their business, that everybody kind of reaches out to them. So, maybe they even have a friend that could kind of set them up, like kind of go through those avenues of somebody you trust to kind of say, okay, look, help me out without having to go through the social media aspect of it.
Exactly. Still use your network, but you don't have to tie your name to those
Absolutely.
posts. That would be my suggestion.
Well,
so
good luck. Good luck selling a horse, and I am really sorry. It is always sad to sell a horse, but yeah, I never thought about kind of a lot of those different things. So that's pretty interesting.
Tough. Yeah. But so if you guys who are listening have a question and want us to talk about it on air, you can send us an email at hello@heelsdownmedia.com. Or like Jess said, you can join our Facebook group, which is the Heels Down Happy Hour Podcast Lounge. Just search for that and you will find it. And that is it, guys. So if you want to hear more from us, again, please subscribe to the Heels Down Brief at bit.ly/HD Brief. And many thanks to our sponsors this week, EcoGold and SmartPack. So cheers to two people, Jess, at the end of our first episode of 2019. To Devin for being super great, and what a great first episode to kick off the new year, right?
Absolutely. I'm so glad we got our guest on. And Kerrigan.
And Kerrigan was awesome too, but I also want to cheers to Sally because she's wonderful and we're going to miss her.
We are going to
wish her all the best for sure. So, all right. Cheers, Jess.
Cheers.
Cheers.